Okay. 3, 2, 1, go.
Man, some of the projected teams are now bottom dwellers, and some of the bottom dwellers are now becoming top teams, and OG Anunoby puts a needed shot in the arm in the Mecca. I'm Rosa Panta. This is the Clinic All-NBA podcast. I have the three hooligans with me. JJ, how you living, my friend?
Woo, feeling good. I'm feeling great. New year, new you, ladies and gents. What's up?
What's up? Yes, indeed. John, how you living, my friend?
New year, new me, new kid. I am doing great. I'm living life. I'm excited to be here. Let's get it, guys.
Yeah, man. Definitely congratulations to the new father, John. Of course, Sammy, how you living, my friend?
And new year, celebrating John's new kid and his MVP, James Harden. Let's go.
We'll definitely have to talk about those LA Clippers a little later, but first, boys, we got to talk about some NBA basketball. It's been a while, but I'm glad to see you all. We got to talk about some disappointing teams this season, and I'm going to give you guys some front runners for the vote for disappointing teams here. First, we have the 8th-seeded Suns, who are 19-16. A week ago, the Suns were in 11th place, having lost 9 of their last 12 games. Now they're just a game behind the 6th-place Pelicans, having won 4 straight. We also have the 10th-seeded Lakers, who are 17-19. And then, to follow up, we have the 11th-seed Warriors, who are 17-18. They had a great homestand in which they won... they won 8 games straight at home, and recently they've had a drop of 4 games out of 6 games. So boys, all of these teams were expected to be top of their conferences, but are now 8th, 10th, and 11th respectively. Who is your most disappointing team? I'm going to start it off with JJ here.
Most disappointing team, in my opinion, it has to be the Suns. They were favored to win the West. You have KD, you have D-Book in his prime, and then you move all those assets just to get Bradley Beal. And who asked for Bradley Beal? It was KD.
KD.
So, out of all the teams listed, call me crazy, I think the Lakers could turn it around. Their 2 best players are still playing great. The Warriors, we could get to them in a minute, but the Suns, I think they're the most disappointing because out of everyone that we just listed, Jun, they were favorites. And arguably the best top-heavy team.
What do you boys think?
Who do you want to go next? Me or Sammy? Because I already know Sammy's answer. So if you want to play the cards here, what do you want to do? How do you want to do this?
You know, I'm going to go for the predictable here. Sammy, what you think?
You lose.
I was kind of thinking the Suns too because those 3 dudes haven't played more than I think a game together. But
yeah, are you giving them an excuse here? Saying that...
No, just you know what I'm doing? I'm going after the low-hanging fruit. That's what I'm going to do. Let's talk about the Lakers since John wants me to. Here's the thing that worries me, and I mean this in all sincerity about the way they're playing. If you told me they were 17-19 because Davis had missed 10 games at this point, LeBron had missed 8 or 9, that would be one thing. I think up until last game, they played every game this year, and they're playing well. And they're still 17-19. That's the thing that concerns me with them.
True.
They've been healthy in terms of the top players. I think Reeves hasn't missed a game either, has missed 1. So the guys you define as 1, 2, and 3 are there. But the rotations are a mess. Otherwise, we just saw that story that came out that there's some unhappiness with Darvin Ham. And I think what we've always learned with these leaks is someone wants them out there. I'm not assuming it's LeBron, but someone wanted it out there that the team is not happy. They need some trades again. And I think there was a set expectation that they had found their so-called big three, that Reeves really stepped up in the playoffs. So it does make you wonder, is there a coaching change coming? What's the next step? And I want to see all the best players healthy legitimately, but is the other shoe going to drop? We have consistent returns these last 5 years that LeBron or AD or both miss time every year. So if they're playing this badly now, what happens if one of those two is not available for an extended period of time? So I look at it like that. With the Warriors, just really briefly, I just think this is a fascinating case study about trying to keep winning while threading the needle with the future. But I want to defer here, John. Who's your pick of these teams?
Wait, before you pick, can you defend the Lakers a little bit? Do you see reasons like why they're having a disappointing season so far? Because I think you deserve a chance here.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. I mean, Sammy just completely verbally assaulting my team here, and I just can't stand for it.
Assaulted with the truth, perhaps. But,
okay. All right. No, in seriousness, I mean, it's a tough question. I mean, I kind of agree with JJ. I think they can turn it around. I think they have the talent. But one of the things that we've always talked about with keeping the roster more or less the same with adding a few new pieces is the continuity. But I think there's also the continuity of your rotations, which Sammy alluded to, right? Having a set, when you're going to come into the game, who you're going to play with, who you're going to get minutes with. And I don't think there is that. And I don't know if Darvin Ham is still trying out all these different rosters. Some of the things, the decisions he's making are kind of questionable. But in the defense of the Lakers, right, they were in the play-in last year, and I know that half of the season was with Russell Westbrook. Obviously, I think a lot of the blame put on him may have been misplaced if you're looking at now and kind of retrospective things that happened. But ultimately, I think anytime you have LeBron James and Anthony Davis on the team, they can pick it up. And I mean, look, I know there's a lot of joshing and joking about the in-season tournament, the banner, and get it. I get it. Some of it is warranted. Although I do think Adam Silver is the one who pressured them to do it to try to legitimize and give credibility to this in-season tournament. But that looked like a completely different team. I don't know if you guys remember, but that 5-game stretch, they looked dominant on both the offensive and defensive side of the ball. So to me, the pieces didn't change. So in theory, they should be able to play that same way that they played. Now, is that going to happen? I don't know. That's a big $1 million question, but I still think they're capable of it. So, I mean, we're just under 40 games of the season, so almost halfway. There's plenty of time, but I agree with Sammy. There is some concern.
Would a coaching change make a difference for the Lakers? Do you think that's a problem?
Doc Rivers.
Do the Lakers need
yes,
Doc Rivers?
Please let Doc cook.
If Doc, here's the thing. That's probably what I would deserve for the last few years of me making fun of Doc Rivers being a top 15 coach of all time, which he is. Check the stats. I would probably deserve that.
It already sounds like it's on the Lakers, the way John's
talking
about
No.
He's getting ready, baby.
That's me being facetious. Anyway, that's a great question, man. Would it make a difference? I think it's still too early to fire Darvin Ham, personally. I think that would be a rash decision, and I would give it until this season.
JJ, Sammy, do the Lakers need a coaching change?
We should reevaluate in 2 weeks because the Lakers will have 11 of their next 12 games at home. And winning cures everything. And Darvin Ham was brought into the Lakers organization for defense. So I don't know what's going on. And I wanted to reaffirm what John said, which is the Lakers' strong point has always been defense, and that's how they even won the in-season tournament. And it's just weird because they just look like a completely different team. They're not playing defense, and some of it is just bad effort. Some of it is the rotations. It seems like the rotations are out of whack, like what John was saying. But they got to find a solution because with D-Russ out, Cam Reddish and Rui all dealing with injuries. What are they going to do with perimeter play? So the next 2 or 3 weeks, Sammy, I know there's a strong push right now for Darvin Ham to get fired, but would that even help? Like, it's kind of this is kind of crazy and not crazy at the same time. But are we all surprised that another LeBron James coach might get fired mid-season?
Yeah, see, and that's the thing. I know this worked for LeBron once before with Ty Lue, ironically. But I'm not a big fan of changing coaches mid-season. I think more often than not, historically, we've seen that doesn't do anything. Now, the trades, they could, because if you're trying to figure out the rotations, that could solve that problem. But that also brings up another question. Last year, they were in almost the same spot. And I know one of the responses to that could be, well, look where they ended up. They ended up there by making a ton of trades at the deadline. And to their credit, Pelinka pulled a miracle and with what they did. But it does bring up a question. Yeah, I understand you have LeBron and AD, and so you're going to have a lot of bottom-heavy talent on the roster in terms of salary. Why can't they keep a strict set of rotation, basically? Why does this flip every single year where we're asking this question in the first half of every season? So to me, I don't think this is a coaching issue. I think this is a roster management issue where maybe on Darvin Ham's fault, he can't quite figure out how to piece these players together correctly. But as a coach, I can only imagine how difficult it is every year to essentially have to rebuild your rotation from spots 4 to 11. And that's what he's being put in the position to do every year, or whoever the Lakers coach is. And so I don't think a coaching change solves that at all. I think you just have to find some consistency in your roster.
John, I think we skipped over your most disappointing team. Who was it?
Yeah, well, I mean, everyone wants me to say the Warriors, but I honestly didn't think that the Warriors were going to be that great this year. So to me, that's not really like a disappointment. It's more just
How
the
dare
expectation.
He actually said that.
How
You know
dare
what?
you, dude?
On
Here's
the
the
season
thing.
preview episode, John actually called that the Warriors were going to be his disappointment. I remember that. So
Yes. Thank you, Sam.
I will give you credit.
You know what? I did not expect Sammy to be in my corner, but I appreciate it. I'll take what I can get at this point, Sammy. After you verbally
me and you,
assault
James
my
Harden
Lakers.
backers, have to stick together. Please proceed.
Yes. Okay, so I'm going to agree with JJ. I think it's the Suns. And because of all the hype, and they're still trying to keep that top-heavy super team, 3 best players, team alive. And that's not really the way that the league is actually going. You're seeing a lot of teams with depth. I mean, the Nuggets, obviously, right? They have 2 stars, and then the rest of the squad is just deep. So to me, it's the Suns. And I know a lot of injuries. They haven't really played much together, but that's part of the game. Injuries happen, right? Lakers have injuries, Warriors have injuries. Chris Paul, I just heard about news about Chris Paul, which is unfortunate. And it's the Suns. They have injuries too. But to be in 19 and 16 when they, like JJ said, they were expected to win the West is at this point disappointing. So I'm going to go with the Suns.
Man, I agree with you guys that the Suns are disappointing. The Lakers are also disappointing, but I'm going to go with my Golden State Warriors for the most disappointing team this season. And that's not because of I know that there were doubts about how Chris Paul would work out this season, but the way that they started the season, it was so hot, things meshed so well together, and it seemed like Kerr didn't really have to figure out the rotations, but now all of a sudden, I think we're almost about midway-ish towards the season here. It seems like Kerr is lost, and the players can feel it. Kuminga is unhappy with Steve Kerr. Moses Moody, who has been a great contributor when he plays, has been getting DNPs. He's unhappy as well. And now you add the fact that Chris Paul tonight fractured his hand and is expected to have surgery. I just see this thing tumbling way, way, way down, and I don't know what's going to fix it. Do any of you guys have an idea of how the Warriors can possibly fix their season this year?
I'm gonna throw it back to you with a question. A question to your question, because I think, do you think that, and I know Steve Kerr has done a lot for this franchise, and he has won championships, but do you think it's just that time where they need a new voice? you know, where somebody's been at the same company for a long time and they're kind of stuck in the mud and things aren't progressing anymore and it's just time to split ways. Do you think we're reaching that kind of pivotal moment for the Warriors here?
For me, I don't know if JJ could speak to this too. I feel like Kerr is in a really awkward place. I feel like that is trying to appease the veterans while also trying to like make a winning team at the same time. But that doesn't mean that like the veterans should be getting a lot of minutes. Like now he's getting a little bit more frisky where like he's bringing Wiggins off the bench. But for a long time, Klay wasn't playing very well. Draymond at times just seems more frustrated than like productive. And I think those are reasons for him to like kind of lose some minutes too. But the fact that like this trio has won championships, I mean, you could say foursome with Wiggins winning the last one that they won. It's hard for Kerr to balance all of that because he still has like solid contributors if they got minutes. Like Kuminga, solid player. Moody, now Trace Jackson Davis, also Pods. Pods has been like super good too. But finding minutes for all these guys is difficult, and it seems like no one's able to like really develop or like even have like a sort of flow. JJ, do you kind of agree with me here?
Yeah, absolutely. You hit the nail on the head. It's when I think about Coach Kerr, when I think about all coaches actually, coaches are chefs and the players are the ingredients. And Coach Kerr is trying to make a winning recipe with ingredients that he's been using for years. But we all know that food, there are classic dishes, but sometimes in a restaurant you need a better dish to match the times, and he is holding on to the equity of players. Like what you said, like Klay. If Klay goes 1 for 11, and then you're gonna let him ride it out in the fourth quarter and close the game, that doesn't make sense to me. And like what you said, Jin, like he's gonna sink. He's gonna go down in a sinking ship with his players that won him those 4 rings. Kerr doesn't have a contract for next season, and if he's gonna go down, who is he gonna go down with? It's gonna go with
the OGs.
The OGs, John, exactly. And
yeah,
I mean, I could go on for it. I just think like right now, if they're trying to, and we've talked about it, they're trying to bridge this gap between the youth and the OGs, and it's not happening. And Kerr's just like, all right, let's roll with the vets. And if he's gonna roll with the vets, it's now on Mike Dunleavy to make sure that he has basketball players that could match Coach Kerr's gameplay and the veterans' style on the game, the floor. And we've seen Kuminga. He may not have that IQ, that basketball IQ, or that the basketball play chemistry to match with the Warriors.
It's all about the legacy, like you say, JJ. I mean, it's what you've done, what these players have done for the franchise. And Klay's done a lot. Steph, obviously, Draymond's done a lot. But like, there comes a point in time when these players are no longer the players that they used to be. I think one of the key prime examples that come to mind is D Rose, right? Like Derrick Rose had so many injuries. He obviously was never longer in his prime, but he kind of transitioned into that 6-man bench role really well. And I think there's a lot of players in the league who are not incapable, but they're just unwilling to do that. And it's something that they have to do. But you're right. Kerr is not he's put in a lose-lose situation. I think that kind of is an accurate, statement.
Sammy, real quick before we go to surprising teams, how do we fix the Warriors?
I think the question you have to define is, what does fix mean at this point in the evolution of the Warriors? Are you trying to make 1 or 2 big moves to make them contenders this year? Or are you starting to evaluate and look toward the future And when I say the future, this is obviously with Curry, but is it time to see what's out there for Draymond? Has he become too much of just an overarching story? I mean, I believe Kerr said something along the lines of he needed time away from us and we needed time away from him last week.
Yep.
About him being away. That's a big statement about someone who's been there that long. So
That's what you say before you get a divorce.
right? Yeah, like the therapy hasn't worked, so we gotta do something else now.
Not
So,
spoken from experience, though. Just want to make
even
that.
a little bit.
Yeah.
8 years strong,
Yeah.
but anyway. So yeah, I don't think this year, I don't see a path to them realistically there's just too much top end talent right now. So
Right.
to me, the move is how do you find a way to retool fast and be ready for next year and get ahead of the curve? I still think Kerr is the right coach for the team. I just think I do think there's some rotation management concerns right now. He is riding with the older guys a little bit too much, and at this point you got to let Kuminga and Moody play and figure out what you got. And I do think it might be time to figure out what does the future look like relative to Clay and Draymond. As painful as that is emotionally, from a salary cap perspective, you've got 2-3 more peak Curry years. You have to take advantage of them. So to me, that's the fix. I think you start to target for next year. I think this year's shot.
Am I sadistic for wanting the Warriors to trade Draymond Green to the Washington Wizards?
Am I sadistic for wanting them to trade him to the Los Angeles Lakers?
Yes, you are. Please,
Wait. Okay, after this, we're gonna go to the ad read, but I wanna continue this conversation of where we could send Draymond. Okay, because I heard that the Sacramento Kings just put, I think, Harrison Barnes, Kevin Huerter, and Davion Mitchell on the trade block. Okay, and I think adding Draymond to Fox, Sabonis, etc. could make that team better. Who says no in some sort of trade scenario involving the 3 Sacramento Kings players and Draymond? Is there something there or no?
Are Draymond and Sabonis having a conversation avoiding kicks in the ribs before this trade happens?
It's stipulated in the contract.
So I'm guessing that's a no.
I see where you're coming from. I think Davion Mitchell is potentially a great asset on the right team, and
Agreed.
just the Kings don't have rotation time for him now. I would love him on the Warriors.
He's a great perimeter defender, yeah.
Yeah, I like the fit there. It's just so hard to gauge what Draymond's value is around the league right now. It's such a hard thing to figure out. And I do think with him, I don't like him for the Kings right now because he would be the loudest voice in that room. And I think he needs to go to a team where he will be somewhat deferential and just spend a while kind of being a little more harmonious.
So you're saying like the
think
Lakers.
Honestly, yeah, that makes a lot of sense because there aren't that many louder voices that we know he's deferential to LeBron. We just do.
I got the team for Draymond. I'm
Oh.
going to send my boy off to a place where he could excel and maybe win possibly another ring. That would be the Mavericks.
That one's interesting. That
Ooh.
one's interesting. What's the move? What's the who comes back?
Seattle. Well,
Kyrie.
trade Draymond for Luka.
Yeah.
Man,
that,
NBA 2K's rejecting that trade.
Yeah, finding a good landing spot for Draymond is super interesting, and it's super hard. It's like what you guys are saying is basically he's got to go somewhere where one more defensive piece puts them over the top, and that's why I was thinking the Sacramento Kings because they're already great offensively, and the Lakers I could see that too because LeBron could kind of control Draymond's craziness per se, right? But anyway, before we go on to the next topic, I'm going to take us to our ad read here. So here's a word from our sponsor.
Are you tired of constantly losing your bets on unfair gambling apps? Our sponsor, Parlay Play, has the best lines to increase your chances at winning it big. Not only does it have great lines, it's also an awesome app with a community feel.
Use code ClinicAllNBA for a deposit match up to $100 and a free $5 game on the house. They also have a feature called Slide the Line where users can raise or lower a line of their choosing. Pause the pod, get on your phone, and download the app now.
Download the app indeed. We're going to take it to our next topic here. And it's the most surprising team so far this season. And I have some top contenders here. I have the second seed Thunder, who are 23-11. I have the fourth seeded Clippers at 22-12. Yes, Sammy is smiling right now. I also have the fourth seeded Pacers at 20-14 and the sixth seeded Magic at 20-15. I'm going to kick it off with Sammy here. Who do you think is the most surprising team of this season?
I'm not going to go with who you all assume I'm going to go with. So let's start there.
You sure?
I loved the Thunder at the start of this year, so I'm going to bypass them. I thought they would be good. I didn't think they'd be this good. For me, this is Indiana.
Yeah.
This was not a great team last year. They can't defend a traffic cone right now, but they score 140 points a game, so they're wildly entertaining. And I think Halliburton should be near the top, not the top of the MVP race, but he's top 10. They've really built up a nice squad around him. They have pieces to add more. They clearly need to add some wings that can play some level of defense. But I did not expect them to be in the top four almost halfway through the year. I'm very impressed by them, and they're also just great. They're fun to watch. I love watching that team, and very pleasantly surprised by what I've seen so far this year.
JJ, what do you think?
I'm gonna have to go with the Orlando Magic, Jin, since I've been clowning on them for the last how many pods.
Since Shaq was in Orlando, that's how long JJ's been clowning
Shaq
for.
and Penny were there. But to have a record of 19-13 and top 5 in defensive rating, who would have thought? And we always talk about how the Magic, no one wants to go there, but with that type of defense, they always have a chance to win. And they're ranked 21 in offense, and I've never been a warrior of offense just because those are that's an aspect of the game that you could always get better through trades or free agency. But defense is where it's at, and we've always said that defense wins championships on this pod. But yeah, definitely surprised about the Orlando Magic. Bad to pick a team off this list.
Beat Denver tonight too, in Denver, so it's much respect.
Yeah, props.
John, who you going with?
Do it, John.
Do it.
The Los Angeles Clippers.
Yes.
Mostly because if they didn't trade for James Harden and their record was 22-12 in the fourth seed, I would say, okay, that's understandable. That's acceptable to me because Kawhi's playing well, Paul George is playing well. They still have a good team, and Ty Lue's a good coach. But they are 22-12 fourth seed after trading for James Harden, after losing 5 in a row, and now they've won, I think, 14 of their last 16 or something pretty crazy like that. They're playing really, really well, and nobody expected this. I did not expect it. James Harden looked cooked in Philly. Clearly, when he's motivated, which, let's be honest, isn't often. When he is motivated, he plays really well, and he can, step aside and distribute the ball. I mean, he's almost averaging double-digit assists for the season, right? 8.3. So it's clear that he's okay not being the sole emphasis on offense and shooting the ball with reckless abandon, which we've seen years and years prior. So I did not think it would be a fit. I did not think that it was and I'm sure everyone here did. JJ smirking because I know he's felt the same way. But it's now currently working. So kudos to them. And Sammy, I hate you. No, I'm kidding.
All those teams have surprised me. But I think the Thunder has surprised me the most because I honestly thought that they were going to be like, how can I word this? Like last year's Sacramento Kings, where they were just a lot of fun.
Yeah.
A lot of fun while winning games. But now watching them, seeing how well Chet Holmgren has been like playing defensively and seeing like SGA, becoming MVP candidate SGA, I did not expect that. I did not expect this man to average 31 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists, while shooting, let's see, 54, 33, 90 splits. Like, that is absolutely ridiculous. And did you guys see when SGA went against Boston and he literally had a whole highlight of him cooking every single player on the Boston Celtics who have elite defensive players? Elite.
Yes.
Like, this is,
Cooked.
to me, literally cooked. If you haven't seen it, go to YouTube right now, search it up, because it's completely incredible. And the thing that I think that SGA has sort of like figured out is that he used to play like super herky-jerky, but now he's just like straight line down to the basket fast. So
Yeah.
I don't know. For me, that's got to be the big surprise, because I don't think, like, they didn't get the second seed on accident.
No.
Like, I really think this is a legitimate title contender this year.
Ooh,
Top
this is a
10.
legit team, man. I agree. And
Top
I will
defense
say,
too, man.
I'm a little,
Yeah.
I will say, as much as the Clippers have surprised me, and as much as it pains me to see them doing well, I am glad that they did give away SGA, because I think that is going to be one of their biggest regrets for the next 15 years. Yeah, this kid is legitimately.
He's the top 5
superstar.
player right now.
He's a
Without
superstar.
question. And if you took the personality part out of it, this is your Draymond landing spot. But they're too young for him.
Right.
But from a skill set perspective, he's exactly what they need.
Yeah, I think so. Veteran leadership and just like the
Another guy who
hard-nosed-
can, another playmaker, someone
Yeah.
who doesn't need to score because they've got enough scores, he would fit perfectly. But I don't think they have the veteran presence right now to bring him in the locker room. And I have no idea how well he would like Oklahoma, which is another story. But just
True.
throwing it out there, this team has room. They need one more big, but they're a contender now. I agree.
To
And
add
the
one more
Thunder.
detail
Go
for
ahead.
our listeners, I remember last week that it was leaked that Doc Rivers had a conversation with Kawhi, and Kawhi was saying we need another all-star on the team, and Doc Rivers supposedly said it's SGA.
You got one.
Nonsense. I don't buy this for a second.
Yeah,
But I heard this. I heard what you're talking about. I heard the podcast, but there's no. I saw Doc Rivers, the GM, for a long time. He'd rather play 40-year-old Paul Pierce than he would any of the rookies on that bench.
That
gotta see that in the playoffs, man.
absolutely sounds like a true story to me, JJ.
Yeah.
Well, good, because he's going to be the Lakers coach soon. So let Doc cook.
Top 15, baby.
I think
By the
John
way,
was in the room during that conversation, so
Absolutely.
he could say it's absolutely true.
And the Thunder. One last thing about the Thunder, man. They can stay focused. They don't let distractions get the best of them with the Josh Giddey stuff going around. So, but we'll leave that for
Absolutely.
another.
That
You
is
know.
a good point.
No
That's a great
distractions at OKC, John. Just ask KD and Russ and
Ouch.
James.
Well, one big trade that happened, trade that we all were like, we've all been waiting for, because like I know that the Clippers, the Lakers, the Warriors, they've all flirted with the idea of attaining OG Anunoby, and he ends up going from the Raptors to the Knicks for RJ Barrett and Emmanuel Quickley. And since he's been there, he has been plus 74 in 3 games since being traded. The Knicks have won all 3 games against the Wolves, Bulls, and 76ers. And I want to ask you guys now, of course, this was a big shot in the arm that the Knicks have needed. Are they now contenders? Are you guys believers in the Knicks? What do you think?
Man, I'm right on the borderline with them. I still feel like they
Yeah.
could use one more piece. But having watched them the last 3 games, their spacing looks better. They have a defender now who could defend a Tatum, who could step out on Lillard. They didn't have that before. I think Barrett's a fine player, but I don't think he fit the construction of that roster. I don't think they're on Milwaukee or Boston's level yet. I think they're one step right below. But they still have the assets to make one more deal. If that one more deal gets done, then I put them there. But I'm super impressed with them, man. They've looked great since they made that deal. So almost but not quite would be my thought, guys.
Yeah, I'm surprised too. I'm surprised mostly just because of the plus 74 in the 3 games. I mean, it's small sample size, but I didn't. I was interested to see the fit between Julius Randle and OG, but I know that OG doesn't really need the ball in his hands, right? He's that type of player who can make an impact on the defensive side of the ball. He can move off the ball, without the ball. He does a lot of things. He's the epitome. He's a winning basketball player, and that's why he was so coveted in trades. Teams wanted him. I mean, the Warriors, you guys wanted him. I would love him on the Lakers. I mean, that's the type of player that you want on your team, who does all of the small things, but is also crazy, super talented, and can really be a focal point on both on the offense and defensive side of the ball. So I agree with Sammy 100%. The Knicks look impressive. I don't know if I'm ready to label them as contenders yet, but they've definitely gone a step in the right direction. So
yeah, I appreciate their efforts in trying to get better in defense, knowing that their defense is ranked probably within the 20 or 19 range of defensive ranking. Their offense looks really good. What's kind of funny is that, a few seasons ago, the Knicks were ranked top 5 in defense. So now it's switched. If they want to be like a real playoff contender, they're going to have to beef up that defense, but by acquiring OG, they're going in the right direction. And their bench looks surprisingly good, which I haven't said that in years. So, yeah, props to the Knicks.
Yeah, absolutely. This was a great move. Are they contenders? I mean, I'm not there yet. I'm not putting them past the Celtics or the Bucks or maybe even the 76ers. I think they're kind of right in that 4-5 range now. I'm a little bit more confident now that they have someone alongside like Brunson, take some of that pressure off with OG Anunoby taking most of the defensive work. So I like that. But contenders, I'm just not quite there. I think 3 games is a small sample size, and I'm gonna need to see it for like another month or 2 before I start saying they're a contender. On the subject of the Raptors, it looks like Pascal Siakam might be on the move. It looks like there are multiple teams putting out efforts to land him, and the Warriors being one of them. Do you guys like the potential landing of like Pascal Siakam to the Warriors? Also, is there another team that you'd like to see Pascal Siakam go to instead of the Warriors?
I mean, as a Warrior fan, it's pretty freaking obvious that I would love Siakam. This team.
Who would the Warriors trade though?
It would have to be
Kuminga.
Wiggins and another player that could take up.
Wiggins is the cap space, but the prizes there are going to be picks. Kuminga is going to be the main asset.
I mean,
Moody
the Raptors
probably.
the Raptors are rebuilding at this point.
They're going to want,
right?
they're going to want kids. So the question for the Warriors is, do you trade whatever assets you have and try to keep this core and make one more run? So, like, let's say, JJ, throwing this out since you mentioned it. Let's say the trade is Wiggins, Moody, Kuminga, and a first. Do you like that trade? Because I think that's what it takes to get him.
The caveat is Coach Kerr, will he play the youngins? And look 40 games into the season already. He's reluctant. He doesn't trust them. So it's just like what you said, Sammy, and what you said, John. It's all about Steph. It's all about having Steph winning that other ring. And it pains me to say it, but if Kerr's not going to use those ingredients as a chef, why not? And it's a terrible trade for the Warriors, but at this point it's just like, well, he's not using Kuminga and Moody, so what's the point of having them on the team? Now I sound like a bitter old man, which I am.
John, what do you think?
Wow. Do I think the Warriors should trade for Pascal Siakam if they had the opportunity? Honestly, I think they should. I think Steph's years are numbered. and just throw all your chips in the middle of the table. That's what I would say. I'm a gambler, so I believe in taking advantage of the moment and the resources that you have, because how often is a player like Steph going to come along? And JJ's right. If you're not going to leverage or use your young guys, develop them, and try to have them contribute to a potential, run in the playoffs, then what's the point of even having them on the roster at this current moment? You know what I mean? Like, if you're going to live in the present and you're going to want to do things to help your team win now, then making a move for Siakam, regardless of whether or not that's leveraging your future, which is most likely going to be, then I think you have to make a move like that.
So, to play a little contrarian, because you said is there another team I would find interesting? Indiana makes a lot of sense if they want to add a piece now. They're not necessarily going to be a full-blown contender with him, but he would fit that squad really nicely. He does play some defense, which they could use. Obviously, he can also score a little bit, and he's never had a distributor like Halliburton with him. So I like that fit. With the Warriors, I mean, I understand where you guys are coming from. Like, you've got Curry, just push all the chips in. So I could see it. I wouldn't blame the Warriors if they did it, but I do find some other interesting spots. I think Dallas is the perfect spot for him, but every year with Dallas, we always say, who are they going to trade? And I don't think that changed this year, too. I don't think they have the assets to get him. So I'll throw Indiana out there as an alternative that I would find very interesting.
How about the Bucks?
I was thinking about that, but I don't see the fit between him, Giannis, and Lopez. That's what I was struggling with. But that actually popped in my head too.
Move Middleton.
Yeah, it would be a Middleton move.
See, the problem. So my problem with that then is you don't have anyone that can guard a wing at that point, because I think Siakam's a little too big for that.
Got you.
But I thought about them initially too.
Yeah, I guess we'll just have to wait and see where Pascal Siakam goes. That actually concludes our podcast tonight. I want to thank you three for being on. JJ, thanks for being on, man.
Thanks, everybody. New year, new you.
She knows she loves Jay because
John, thanks for being on, man.
Hey, thank you, everyone. Have a great night.
Detective John.
Sammy, thanks for being on.
Thank you, man. Always good to be here.
Sammy takes it all the way.
And of course, shout out to our video producer,